Hello, everybody. I've got James here with me. How you doing, James?
Fine.
Fine.
Doing.
Just fine. Better than Nabil, who just texted both of us finally. Nabil is, from what we can tell, dealing with a lot of water that should not be above ground, but is above ground. That should probably be underground in some sort of pipe, I would guess. Is that what that looked like, James?
Yeah, it looked like only the basement had been built in a building, and the basement was at max capacity with water.
Right. That did not look good. But yeah, it could be worse though. Nabil could have scored the most amount of points in a single week in Splatter League history without getting a W. That would be worse, right?
It feels worse.
I
It
know you
feels
don't have
worse.
much. I know you don't have much to say, James. You put up one hell of a week with a 159.62. We do have to talk about it at least a little bit. Also, only the third highest score of the week and one honest start-sit decision change from me away from being the fourth highest score of the week. If I had the gusto to just start Freeman after picking him up, that was a legitimate internal conversation. That coin flip goes the other way, and you're in fourth place for the week, and also the highest score to ever lose. So just a wild week. Looking back, obviously your team did perform very well. If there's one thing, you really kind of needed a couple different things to break, but is there anything, just I gotta ask, that really hurt or shocked you about the way the matchup went? Like on one line item, is there it is, other than,
Of course, Jonathan Taylor.
come on,
Like there, there's no way. If you had Jonathan Taylor last week, you should have won. So that's fine. I think also Zach Ertz outscoring Travis Kelce. That
yeah.
sucks. Where did that come from? And then Tennessee is just garbage, and Tannehill puts up 11 points. The kicker puts up 1. Just heartbreaking for every guy on my roster. Must-win week. We lose. We go into next week playing Hunter, and it's Kelsey's bye. It's not looking good, but it is what it is.
I feel bad because I got the lucky end of the stick, I guess. Just things did happen to bounce my way, which they hadn't for a while. But yeah, I will say, obviously the 53 from Taylor, congrats, Kevin, you deserve to win. That's insane. But Ertz outscoring Kelce by 10 points, not even just outscoring him, but getting a significant leap at the tight end position is not something you expect at all when you have Travis Kelce starting. And Josh Allen doesn't have a great game, and you still can't make up any ground there. There was that, there was a couple of things that didn't break your way, but it's a good. Man, you put up that solid of a week, you expect to win. Good luck to you the rest of the way. At least you've made some headway, I hope. I haven't actually looked. How are you in total points? Have you made some?
I'm doing all right. I think me and Travis I'm ahead of Travis in points for, and I'm only 2 games out of the division. So with the division matchups coming up, there's a chance.
There's a chance. Nabil looks like he's back with us. Nabil, we are live. How you doing, buddy?
Dealing with a project that's a lot like my fantasy season. I already kind of made the joke to you guys, but it looked great on paper, but the execution is so poor. But it's part of the job. Sometimes contractors know what they're doing. Sometimes they don't. You can ask Drew. And that's where I'll leave that. Okay. I'm doing good though. Otherwise,
I thought your punchline was going to be completely underwater, but I'm
not. See, this is why I need writers before we start the show.
Well, yeah, we just recapped James's matchup from last week. I'm not going to make him go through the pain of revisiting that. But so how you doing, man? I know it was I ended up not being super close, but you put up a good score, 131. How you feeling after last week, going into this week with your current situation?
All right. I already gave Chris a heads up on this, but let me just go ahead and throw some numbers at you. Okay. My average points per game this season were 120. What we've always said is the magical number. The average QB score I had this season was 15. I had 6 games under 11 points from my QB position. We all know that that's my kryptonite. It's my kryptonite. It was even the year I won, my QBs sucked. If my QBs averaged 20 points, I'd be the 3rd highest average score in the league. Out of my 6 games that I lost, I was in the 5 of those weeks, I was in the top 6. But football sucks. The ball's not round. James is yawning. That's how I feel because all I have to do is complain and it's boring. And I want to enjoy football again. And I can't. I love that you're eating while I'm talking. I'm off my soapbox. But in the end, we come back to kind of a post that you had earlier, Chris, which was we're all still very much in it. And it's making it hard. Look, I've had people reach out for players. Am I ready to sell? I'm not against it, but it's hard when I look at my team and I see how good they are. And there's still 3 weeks left and there's still a chance. How can I give up? My team put up 130 for the last 2 weeks. I think I've had competitors. Well, no, I had one little flub of a 75 pointer. Otherwise, it's been like 120s. So it's hard for me to sit here, see week in and week out that more than half the league doesn't score above 100, and I'm losing these weeks that are necessary. So I'm done. I'm done betting. This season, man. Is that what James pretty much did? And we just rehashed it?
Yeah, that was pretty similar. Sorry to the listeners who had 2 rounds of that.
I didn't mute myself for James. That was a lot more of a dialogue, a back and forth. But yeah, I'm glad that you caught up basically in terms of like everyone's had about an equal amount of talking time now, so that's good.
Thanks.
I do want to say one thing, and only because I'm just trying to be a dick. But if you had a quarterback average 20 points a week, was that the if for your if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, right? Like of course it's a big if,
right? Well, that's what I mean. It's football in the end. Like I've actually looked at it. Like I actually can't look at this season and feel like I really did too much wrong when
you didn't. Yeah.
Look, every time you find a player, and we've all had this, right? You find that one person who's had 2 hot streaks. You think you found it. Like a good example. I thought Sam Darnold was the rescuer of my season in week 3. I was like, Sam Darnold, really? And then I was like, oh man, Danny Dimes, let's do this. No, like sometimes it just doesn't work out. Patty Mahomes was supposed to be the savior. Puts up a freaking stinker last game.
I'll admit I had quite the hot take about Sam Darnold too once he was rolling for you in one of my bold predictions. We don't have to revisit that exactly because bold predictions are supposed to be shots in the dark. But yeah, things are going well, and then they weren't. And you really hit the Eckler pick, which that was, you're correct. I mean, Eckler was a keeper for you though this year, right?
Yeah, he was a keeper. So I mean, it was him and Hunt, and Hunt had the unfortunate injury. And honestly, I don't think it would
you can't
really matter because I've been starting pretty much Cook, Eckler, and Fournette for most of the season. It's I think this is Eckler's like first like really, really big game. Maybe he had one other, but honestly, I can't even complain about that. You put your best roster out. It is what it is. It's football. I really don't need to dwell on it anymore. It's not that big of a deal.
One other match that I did want to click into just because it ended up I didn't catch my radar because it was over in the afternoon slot, but and not a super high scoring game. But Travis and Drew played a nail biter of a matchup. Super important as Travis ends up becoming 1 of 5 to end up at 7-4. Drew falls back into that 6-5 slot. So there are Drew and I believe is it Hoyt is he tied with at 6-5 are right there. One of them is going to be in, one of them is be out at 6-5, but super close matchup here. The biggest takeaway from me, I'm just going to lead this off. The Buffalo defense, literally, if Drew just doesn't play a defense or pick someone who does anything, he wins. Like he wins. Like Buffalo just looked absolutely atrocious against Indianapolis, and that's my biggest takeaway from here is that I did not expect a minimum amount of -4 being the difference in Drew winning and losing versus Travis. Is there a chance that keeps him out of the playoffs?
I mean, this is just more and more proof that we can't say anything but football, because like you, myself, Hoyt, and Hunter are all in a pick'em league, and week in, week out, everyone who's a surefire winner, there's been like 4 or 5 of those that people have all put like 14, 15, confidence points on, and they just blow it when they're supposed to win. It should be an easy win, and it's not. And Buffalo is one of those that's like supposed to be a good defense. So to see them kind of struggle and put up -4, because like you can look like there are teams that lose all the time that put up pretty good points because they can get sacks, but they weren't even after it. They weren't even hungry. I mean, you go up against Jordan Taylor or Jonathan Taylor, not Jordan Taylor. And I guess that's what happens. And unfortunately, like, how is Drew supposed to know he gets a negative? Has there been any manager who's put up a team that had negative points on defense this year? That'd be something I'd be interested in.
I'm pretty sure it's happened at some point. It's more common than you would think. I mean, the threshold to get to -4 is only 35 points, which isn't actually super high. And then if you're getting no sacks or turnovers on top of that, like, or even just a couple sacks, like you're in the negatives. So it happens, I'd say probably, just pulling it out of my hat, probably 4 or 5 times a year, somebody starts a defense that gets negative, would be my guess. It happens decently often, but to have a -4 in this position, for it to be the difference in you winning or losing the match, this is the worst one I've ever seen. James, any thoughts on this before we move on to looking forward to next week?
I would have loved to have played either of these teams this week. That would have been so fun. That would have been great. It's just got to be painful to Drew to look at Travis's team and the first 5 players didn't put up more than 10 points just going down, and he still wins. Great to see that Waller seems to be back. I just like him as a player.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just kind of mad in general looking at this matchup. I don't think I have much more to say.
We won't.
You have two bitter berries here.
We're not going to make you dwell on last week anymore, James. It's time to look ahead. So just before we look at individual matchups, I just want to look at the standings in each division here real quick, so we kind of break it down. So think of it this way: like in each division, there are 6 wins left. Right? No one's only one team can get 3. So there's not going to be 2 teams winning 3. Like, there will be some movement somewhere. But there's only 6 wins to distribute between each of these sets of 4 teams. It's interesting that everyone's got someone with 7 wins, and everyone's got someone with 5 wins. The Spikes division is the only one that doesn't also have. The Grad also is the only division that doesn't have someone with 6 wins. Everything's super tight as we're saying. But so looking at your division, James, looking at the Grad, Hunter or Travis are going to win when they play each other, right? Like there's one win in there somewhere, which means you're hoping that whoever wins that match loses their other 2, and then you've got an outside shot at a division title. How you feel? Like,
I'm not feeling good because that means Devin, I think, gets 2 wins, if not 3. It's not looking great for the division. I think the hope is entirely that I can somehow sneak in to the 6th spot and hope that Slow Brew beats themselves up and a bond falls apart.
I think that's about the only way. Yeah, I guess the division's out. Do you want to look at 2 weeks from now, Hunter and Travis play that game? Very much could decide the division in 2 weeks. Nabil, taking a look at your division. So same thing here, except here's the real bummer. Is you would actually technically need Hoyt to win twice to get the division. You got to win out, and then obviously the one last win split between them. So you need to win out, and you need Hoyt to win against Spencer and Antonio. It's not impossible though. somehow this feels, even though you're got more of a hill to climb, it feels more likely than James's scenario just because of the Devin situation. How are you feeling going into the last weeks here?
I honestly don't think I needed you to point that out. Shit, that seems a lot worse. I mean, I think honestly, what it comes down to is I think we hypothetically can have 3 from the same division. So it's more that I hope that I win out, and kind of what James said. I hope that the other divisions essentially do something where they ruin their chances at increasing, huge games from like all we really need are for Devin and Ryan's teams to kind of throw a wrench in the other divisions. Hopefully, I'm going to be James' ally during this because we have been struggling together through these podcasts. We essentially need them to throw a wrench in other people's game plans. We just need them to blow up. We need them to not put up a whole bunch of points. So I used blow up in the sense of not functioning, not blow up as in points. I think both of us need to continue to put points on the board. We can't have our own screw ups because we essentially have to hope that we get to a point that everyone's final freaking win loss totals are all nearly the same. And it comes down to point totals. Like it just sucks because I'm 0-3 in the division. I still think I have one of the top 2 in the division as far as the team. I do think that Hoyt has the opportunity to beat Spencer when I look at their teams put together. But it sucks because I am at the fate of everyone else in the league. I mean, obviously I have to win. What is James laughing at?
It's just so fun to listen to.
You have to be optimistic, man. But I mean, it sucks because this is the most defeated I am. Like, I'm on the outside looking in, and it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. Wow, this is going to be like the worst listen for others because it's
the
just
division.
My
point is, I'm guessing the division titles seem to be out. I would think that each division is going to end up. My guess is each division winner ends up with 9 wins, which would be out of reach for each of you. So, and then so where I'm getting at is that seems to me like 3 teams are going to get to at least 9 wins in each division.
Seems what you're saying, Chris, is that you're predicting that your team is in fact going to win 2 of the next 3.
I do.
The team we haven't discussed yet.
Yeah, the division we haven't discussed yet comes down to me, Drew, and Kevin. I play Rocha this week, and so if I get that win, and if Drew gets the win over Kevin, I think I play Drew next week. No, I play Kevin.
How's the view from up there? Because God, you're so much happier.
It's so
than it is. Even the mightiest fall. Just know that. Okay.
I have not felt great about my team all year. It's been like trying to fix an airplane while it's in the air. Okay. My first 3 picks were all running backs, and they played a combined 6 games and 2 snaps.
At least you got to fly. Some of us have been stuck on the ground the whole time.
All right. That's fair. Good one. I'm hoping that it works out for me, that I'm looking at a division title and a bye. Like I'm fingers crossed that that's it seems like all I have to do at this point is win out with the points lead. It would be great if somebody could knock off Hunter or Antonio in front of me. I saw that face Nabil. But I do want to talk about so there's no like clinching scenarios, it seems like, but I did want to just peek into one of the matchups maybe that doesn't have Rocha or Devin in, since those aren't going to be super competitive. But let's start with yours, Nabil. Where'd you go, Jay? Because this, to me, like this is a match between 2 very good teams in you and Spencer, 2 very good rosters. And we're kind of going back to the old question, and in fact, you're projected at the same amount without a kicker in there right now. He has no kicker. So it's
he has no kicker now.
So yeah. So these projections are low for each of you, but what are you looking at? Like, and we'll pull up the benches too. Like, what are you hoping in particular breaks your way, I'm guessing it's quarterback play, in order for you to pull out the win.
Yeah, I couldn't be more right about that, Chris. I was kind of hoping by the time I made that Patrick Mahomes trade, I would have maybe had 2 extra wins under my belt, and not just one. But here I am, hoping on another quarterback to. I'm hoping for a shootout. It's in a dome, so I don't have to worry about bad weather. I'm hoping that Tampa Bay's, I think, front four have been pretty good against the run, so Jonathan Taylor doesn't go wild, so they have to throw. That's it. I hope OBJ comes in. I don't know. I'm still debating between Bateman and freaking OBJ, and just defeated. Just move on.
James, your takeaway from this matchup between Nabil and Spencer, with basically Nabil's playoff hopes on the line.
I think you just gotta hope like all these WR2s go off for the guys on Spencer's team. Like maybe it's an Ayuk game and Debo's quiet. Maybe it's a Godwin game and Evans is quiet. I don't even know who the WR2 is on Indy, but Pittman's not involved.
Well, I think what's kind of crappy is like the guy receiving all the targets on the Colts, like if we're going to talk football, is Pittman. So if you have Pittman in other leagues, like even though the total, like I think Wentz only completed 20 or threw for 20 passes last game. And so
I'm gonna go ahead and give some unsolicited advice right now, Nabil. I don't think you have a really good chance of winning with Wentz in there because of the fact that Spencer has Pittman. But on top of that, you just said you're hoping it's a shootout. Like the Colts, if the Colts score a lot of points, like most likely the Buccaneers are also scoring a lot of points.
But you find it in
Spencer
games, if we're going to
Brady.
talk real football, you find it in games that one of those three, like if Antonio Brown is back, and was he back last game? I actually didn't catch that part, but like,
No, he's not.
I mean, there are times that Evans goes quiet, and to James's point, like I essentially rely on the run game. Hopefully they get ahead. Pretty much, I hope what happens is Tampa Bay gets ahead without Mike Evans. Fournette ends up running through the rest of the game, and Wentz has to play catch up. So he throws a whole bunch, and hopefully it's not to freaking Pittman. Maybe he's doing dump passes to, what was it? Not Najee Harris. Who's that? Naheem Hines and Jonathan Taylor, just dumping them off to the running backs. And that would be perfect. Look, we're just going to see where it goes. I say we move on.
We'll say the running back stack of James Robinson and Saquon Barkley, that is a generous 30-plus point projection. I feel very little confidence in both of those guys for Spencer compared to your running back room.
Yeah, to see that they're both nearly project, well, not that close, but for James Robinson, he is going against Atlanta. Atlanta's a Swiss cheese defense. Who knows? Maybe it's another game that, oh God, I don't see Jacksonville necessarily blowing out Atlanta and changing it up. But I mean, Tebow's been a boss. And so, I mean, I hate these games that you have players that you do not like. Didn't you have Kittle last week? And I couldn't even cheer for Kittle. Now I'm going to not be able to cheer for Debo. It's just.
At some point, you got to just take out the fantasy aspect and be happy that your team's doing well, Nabil.
I hope Tom Brady just hands it off to Fournette all game.
That would be ideal for you. Let's take a look at. Well, James, do you want to look at yours, or are you tapping out on it for being under the microscope?
I think the keys to the matchup there are that multiple of Hunter's players have some bad food the night before Sunday and get some last minute Lamar style visits to the bathroom and scratches.
It's not impossible. It's not honestly not impossible with Lamar missing last week. But yeah, I feel like Kupp needs to like not show up to the stadium. Like,
yeah. And who knows who's going to be throwing the ball in New Jersey for my now WR1 Elijah Moore, because every other receiver has fallen off the face of the earth for my team.
honest question, and if you don't want to answer for the pod, you don't have to. But are you in sell mode or are you still in win mode?
I'm giving it one more week. and then things will get interesting.
This is the most 5 and 6 response ever. One more
That's been my
damn week,
response
dude.
for the last 3 weeks. Has been like, well, let's see. All right, Nabil's gone again.
Yeah, we lost Nabil. I had a question for him too, which was basically, same thing, which I know he's in it for one more week. And now I lost my train of thought. Where are we going on that? One more week. Yeah, it was about the trade deadline. That was my trip, because we already talked about this before we started recording. And now I'm gonna have to repeat myself again if Nabil comes back on. So we'll table that. But remind me if Nabil pops back in. Let's bring up that discussion around moving the trade deadline. I think that's something that we should definitely open back up. Looking let's pick out one more. Again, I don't want to look at me and Rocha. It's boring. It's basically, does my team show up? This is kind of the Drew versus Kevin game. Is Kevin being the third between you and Nabil that are 5 and 6, but he's got the better roster than Drew. So just looking at this, it's kind of a winner go home game for both of them, with Drew being so far down in points. However, I mean, if Drew loses, he's tied with Kevin. It's not over, but this is definitely a super pivotal matchup as far as that kind of last playoff spot. Taking a look at the rosters, James, what are you thinking?
Well, I played Kevin last week. Let me tell you, it is a stacked roster. There's not a man on that team that doesn't know how to score multiple touchdowns in the game. So Drew's got to look out for that. Yeah, he's got a good team. Like Mike Williams, if he can kind of continue what he did last week and what he's doing at the beginning of the season, that's like a potential 20 plus points. Ayuk's looking good. Jonathan Taylor's looking good. He'll get a different tight end in there. I think he's like a scary team that if he can easily steal that 6th spot.
Yeah, for sure. Nabil, you're back.
I'm back. Honestly, this has just been this pod has turned into my fantasy season. It's not going the way I want. But honestly, Drew, you need to make trades. I was shocked you didn't really make one towards the end of last week, and you gotta make one now. Like, Gaskin is so hot and cold. I mean, is he really? Wait, hold up. Is that David Johnson that he has currently sitting in there?
Yes.
And he's gonna get in the playoffs. That sucks.
No, okay. So this is where I sit, and I'm just hoping it's like, Drew, make me an offer I can't refuse, and you can have so many of my players if it helps you get into the playoff. At this point we need to take down Antonio. That's all I care. I'm so broken. I'm gonna start crying.
What's so funny to me is Drew is usually the person that we're like, no, Drew, stop. What are you doing? Don't give away all of your picks. And it's been incredibly quiet out of the kitchen camp this year. What's with the Antonio stop hate? Hold on, I'm not gonna let that slander against two.
You're like a dog. No, you're like a dog with a bone, because it's the same. He's turned into the Patriots, and ain't nobody like the Patriots. So we just got to move on, spread the wealth. At least give me a second title. That's all I got. I mean,
James, your thought on the multi-title winner hate?
Screams from the haters got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero needs its theme music. Kanye West.
James, that was amazing. I'm glad you quoted Kanye out of nowhere.
That was wonderful.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think we've realized, like, some people are feeling stuck, right? Like James or Drew might sit there and look at his team. Maybe the reason why he hasn't made moves is while he knows he is a playoff contender and has, a path to the playoffs, might not feel confident in his team. So why go and sell your future, which we've seen him do many a times before.
Right.
Maybe he's learning his lesson and doesn't think. But like when you sit there and look at his team with 3 pretty solid receivers, it's so sad to see that there's a hole at tight end and running back. And
well,
he was relying on
Higgins is startable. Like he's just not, Troutman's gonna be removed there. He's got Higby. I mean, sorry, not Higgins, Higby. And running back's been thin for like everybody but you. Like to be perfectly honest, like you've got like a solid group of running backs, and Drew would be a good trade partner for you. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But like, I don't know if not making a trade doesn't mean he's not like trying or maybe not even not looking. And I mean, I would never.
I don't think it's not trying.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's
Like,
not trying. I mean,
yeah.
let me clarify that. It's just like, come on. Like, I think where I'm coming from is I'm sitting in the same position of James, where you just are like, what the hell? Like, just give
One more week.
one more week and move on. Yeah, this is, I mean, I think it's gonna just be generally interesting to see how it all falls. And I think, God, we said this last week too. We'll have a better idea the following week.
We always will, yeah. I mean, as we get more information, of course, we're gonna understand it a little bit more. One thing that James and I were talking about, one of the times that you were not able to be on the call with us, Nabil.
Yeah,
we were talking about the trade deadline, and it's been the same for a while, and I think I've always just made it as late as possible, right? The idea is like we're trying to encourage trades. Yes, there are people who are tanking at the end, and we actively acknowledge that. But as long as you're trying to make yourself better for next year, there's no harm, no foul, right?
Right.
Is the trade deadline too long though? Now I think it moved back a week with the week getting extended. Without necessarily looking or realizing that, I have to go back and check. I feel like it might be time to revisit. Like, hey, do we pull that trade deadline up at least by a week to get it back to the same spot that it was before the whole season got extended? Right. So instead of it being like, oh, with 3 games left, or with 2 games left, it's over. It's like, no, after 11 games is when it's over. We already have a late trade. Anyway, James and I kind of talked about it.
I mean, my only opinion on it is that I don't want I mean, okay, I guess I can only speak for myself. Is like, I want to feel as engaged in my potential to play in the playoffs as possible, right? Because the second I start tanking, get more picks for next year, like I kind of check out. And I mean, for me, the reason why I've enjoyed this season, even though I've also not enjoyed this season, is because that I still have a chance. And by extending the trade deadline, I guess what I'm noticing as a potential trade partner for others who are making a larger playoff push is, my assets, I almost kind of think decrease in value, because the people who want to buy are likely maybe not feeling like they are the strongest team, and how much are they willing to offer, blowing up their future for just getting knocked out in the first round. So, I mean, to answer your actual question, is I think it's fine in this spot. I don't think it's made my experience worse or better. I don't know. I guess I'd feel worse if I had less time feeling like my team had a chance.
Yeah. James, I know we kind of talked about it, but anything else you wanted to add now that we're actually on camera?
Yeah, I kind of have like the opposite stance, where I think this year feels like maybe I'm just like biased because this year there's so much variety, and there's a huge clump of teams still in it this late. But I think an earlier trade deadline forces that to kind of continue into the playoffs, where teams aren't able to just like as late as possible be like, all right, now I'm statistically eliminated from the playoffs, time to dump, and the existing playoff teams become these super teams heading into the playoffs, and it forces some skilled guys to remain on non-playoff team rosters because decisions were made earlier if people were still in the hunt. But I do like the point Nabil's making of, I think we could see a lot more teams starting to dump around like week 10, 11, and then there's not what we have right now, which has been like the most exciting playoff like push I think we've had in the last like 4 seasons, where we don't have any clear 1 or 2 and people aren't dumping besides 2. So I don't know. I think maybe 1 week further up, but no, nothing more than that.
I think, yeah, the 1 week is all that I would like suggest. I'm not even necessarily saying I'm a backer of it. Like I really would need to think, because I think a lot of what you're saying, Nabil, like rings true with me too. But like what James said, like it's all valid points. And I think that there's potentially arguments to be made to move it up even sooner, but I like the way that it works right now. And I'm just wondering if 1 more week earlier would be a little bit, like, I'm talking about like tinkering, not completely changing the spirit of what our league is built on.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that's all. Like, I don't think we need to make it week 8,
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, the way I kind of am going to continue, probably at least from my perspective, might not change, just because again, I do think it allows for last minute trades. In the end, what it's hard, and to maybe one of James's point is like, yeah, you have these skilled players who could be potential playoff winners, but a lot of those are also people who have keeper value. And so maybe that opinion comes from the more of a concept of a like a redraft league, but as a keeper, like my team might continuously still have a lot of talent that won't get traded because I either see the keeper value there that others don't. Now that could also incorporate injured players who might be available for keeper and someone needs to play. So yes, I don't really think it's going to change that much moving it 1 week before, 1 week back. I'm going to probably stay with my stance of like, I'd like it closest to the end of the season, not to necessarily generate. I think it keeps people in longer personally. Like I feel still invested, even though I'm frustrated.
So that's a really good transition, because I wanted to go back to a point that you had made earlier about like when you are in a season like this where you're maybe not necessarily making the playoff push and you decide to sell a little bit earlier. So maybe like a game or 2 back of where you are now. It's kind of easy to check out and not be as invested. There's nothing really to play for. And I just want to go back to that sentiment and bring up my argument again of this is why having the consolation bracket means something, I think is going to help a lot. Like you can still trade off your players, but if you know that like if Devin was like knew that he still had a shot at the number 1 overall pick next year, is he averaging 65 points a week right now? I don't think so. If you knew that there was, so I'm just bringing up that sentiment, like, because your point on the trade deadline, like, is well taken. I'm just saying, like, if like,
so I want to counter that thought. I want to counter that one thought. The first round pick in the draft is not like, I don't think it hits the same way as it does in professional sports, because if Devin can accrue more lower round picks, he has a higher probability of hitting players with better potential. Just having the first round pick doesn't necessarily grant you a win. So why would you?
Oh, I'm talking about the first overall pick. I'm talking about the ability to.
That's what I'm saying.
McCaffrey or Henry.
Christian McCaffrey was, out throughout the season. You don't know that. So why? Like, wouldn't you rather have a handful more of 2 to 3 to 4 round picks that can help you generate a more well-rounded team than just like, okay, well, if I lottery get 4th pick is Alvin Kamara next year or, Dalvin Cook next year, any different than having Jonathan Taylor or McCaffrey, when I know that I also have 2 second rounds or 2 third rounds that help me put together a stronger group. That's why it's like, in the end, I'm just saying a consolation.
None of that changes how you're trading for earlier, later rounds.
But if you're staying for the consolation to win, you're keeping your players. Those are players that you normally trade.
Maybe you might not be keeping your studs, but you're at least trying to start a lineup, right? Like that's like you're not worried about like you're at least staying actively engaged in trying to maybe not necessarily win a title, but not finish in dead last and then get the 6th overall pick guaranteed next year, which the 6th overall pick in our league oftentimes isn't a consensus first round pick. You're still gonna trade away for picks, but I think I'm not trying to say that Devin is doing anything wrong or that Ryan's doing anything wrong by completely tanking their team. But this is how we've set the league up. This has been the way that it's been set up. I'm asking, is that what we want? Is that okay going forward that we want there to be absolutely like no repercussion for this year, other than like writing a silly essay that we haven't been keeping anyone up onto if they don't score a certain threshold. I don't think anyone's going to approach trading their studs away any differently. But at least if there's something to play for, you're going to be more active in the league all the way up into the end, whether you're, 10-2 or 2-10. That's all that like.
Instead of the first overall pick, it could be like an end of the third or fourth round, like a comp pick. The 13th pick of that round goes to the winner of the consolation bracket. So there's not that debate of is the 101 valuable or not compared to other things, but I do think it would be fun to have something that motivates the consolation bracket, but I don't know how much it should be affected by. I don't know how you get that motivation without affecting the draft, but there's that balance there.
Yeah. Extra fab dollars, like
20
I'd be more
fab,
inclined for that because I feel like you could also look at I don't know. I feel like, am I out of fab in this league? I don't know. I have another league with fab that I like am completely out.
You're the only three without fab.
I actually remember.
Yeah. So, I mean, having an extra 50 could could at least be an incentive that will be more season.
I actually even like
more of a season effect.
What if
it would be?
I love this. I love a good brainstorming session. Could even be like scaled, like playoff teams get $100 in fab next year. The non-playoff teams get like I don't know what those amounts should be, but essentially you get more for winning the consolation bracket. It's a way to give you more incentive to try to win at the end, but also does not actually affect the draft positioning at all. Could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because like in the end, like maybe you don't like, okay, hey, I have two studs. Maybe my team has, okay, well, let's just sit in my situation. Say I have Cook and Eckler, right? I think both could be huge beneficial to a lot of playoff berth teams. I think I could either keep them, try to win the consolation bracket. Let's just say hypothetically doubles your fab. Not that would be how you do it, but let's just say I get 200. Well, maybe knowing that next year, okay, well, look, I'm not going to get that many stud keepers, or I'm going to have to focus on, or maybe people aren't offering me picks that I want. Boom, I'm going to try to win that 200, knowing that, okay, I don't need to have a whole bunch of front-loaded like draft picks. I can survive through, and then I'll have that extra fab to really escalate my team when it needs to, when I need to win. When I want to spend instead of 50, I want to guarantee I get someone's handicap that's going to essentially step in as an RB1. Boom. I'm going to go ahead and take that person because I'm just going to have so much more extra fab. That's more of an incentive to me to like really try for the consolation than just being like, okay, I get the first overall. Hell, I might draft, McCaffrey, boom, his knee goes out again or whatever. And
you're not.
Why didn't I try to get more picks? We're taking like, two different opinions on what our strategy is.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't. Like the first,
I would fight.
Rather pick first than sixth, right? Like it's not like guys get injured, but like you still would rather pick first than sixth, right?
Yeah, but then I would also have maybe 2 second rounds, 2 third rounds that I could trade to move from 6 to 3. We've seen that happen in years past, so that can be more of an incentive to me to get more picks to trade to move up than to just be given the first. I'm not going to change my current opinion on the first overall pick, but I do understand that we can make the consolation worth something, whether it's some sort of difference in different rounds or different picks or increase in fab. I do agree in the end with the concept of how do we make the consolation bracket more competitive? I just don't know if personally, if I even really care about getting the first overall, and maybe I'm the only manager that thinks that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's just funny to me, like, like when for me, it's just like all of the other traded picks. It's just like I don't think that the consolation. I don't think a first round pick over like getting the first round pick Like, I don't think that that's going to stop players from trading, like from doing all the trades that
So then what is the
Like,
incentive of even doing that?
to have something to play for at the end. Like,
Okay.
it's not going to stop the trades, right? Like, but what, like right now, like if you're in Devin's shoes, like he's basically tapped out of trades, right? Like, now what does he do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to
Like-
just do the same thing that Devin does regardless, because why would I don't care. I got more earlier round picks, so I don't have to try to, like, what more is
The
he
first
supposed to
pick
do?
is still
There's-
better than the sixth, right? And if it's contested separately from,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have more to say. If I was in Devin and Ryan's shoes, I'm not changing anything. So I don't really get what. Okay, cool. The first round pick goes to whoever's in fifth or sixth. The first overall pick.
first
goes to
overall
fifth or
pick.
sixth.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, cool. That means me and James have a shot. Like if this was the same situation next year. So I mean, cool. I don't think it changes their incentive to do anything.
Interesting. All right. I have a bold prediction.
James, do you have a thought process on it? I mean, I guess you kind of already shared, but
The one that sparked my interest the most was the tiered fab, because I think there's something there where it doesn't as blatantly affect outcomes, and I like the idea of week one, someone bidding 101 to outbid all of the playoff teams that only have 100 fab. Like that idea. But no, in the sake of cutting this argument off at 20 minutes, I'm going to say I abstain any further opinions.
I've got a bold prediction. If the two of you don't have one, or I'll give you time to start or to think about it, and I'll start. We did not actually talk about our Niners at the top of the podcast here. A couple things got in the way of that. One was Nabil's foundation being underwater. So I'm going to go Niners for my bold prediction. Jimmy G finishes as a top 3 fantasy quarterback in a romp of a Niners win over Minnesota this week.
Ooh, I'll add to it in the Niners theme. There will be 2 defensive touchdowns for the 49ers this Sunday.
All right.
am I missing something with like Kirk Cousins? Is he out or something? Because y'all are way too optimistic. Do you not see what they just did to freaking Aaron Rodgers?
That's a bold prediction.
Yeah, no, this is bold / unrealistic because it's Jimmy G. I mean, I'll predict a win. I think in the confidence league, I currently have the Vikings winning. So whoops. I mean, my bold prediction, and I'm gonna just stand by it. I'm calling it now. James or I will make playoffs. Make the playoffs. We're going. I mean, that's just as possible as the Niners' 2 defensive touchdowns.
It's a
whopping
right?
the Vikings.
Right? It either happens or it doesn't. Everything is 50-50.
Love it.
Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening in. I feel like we almost hit an hour again. This is probably one of our longer ones, but good luck to everybody with waivers running tonight. The 3 of us obviously have lots of big moves to make with our combined 0 fab dollars. Well, good luck to everyone else. Yeah, who might actually have a claim in that is worth $1. I might look at doing some defense or kicker swaps. I haven't done that yet. But yeah, good luck to everyone in the last 3 weeks of all these divisional matchups. It should be super fun. That was kind of the idea behind setting up the divisions, was to create a little bit more just intense finale, and it paid off. It worked, I think, or at least it seems to be headed down that path. Nabil, any last words before we end it?
No, let's get divisional, baby. Let's do it.
Love it. James, last word to you.
Screw you, Jonathan Taylor. Screw you.
All right, take it easy, everybody.